hopefully we'll be fine with Canada. I love Canada. Frankly, Canada should be the 51st state, okay? It really should, because Canada relies entirely on the United States. We don't rely on Canada.
Prime Minister Carney in Canada caved to President Trump in the United States of America. And President Trump knows how to negotiate, and he knows that he is governing the best country and the best economy in this world, on this planet. And every country on the planet needs to have good trade relationships with the United States. And it was a mistake for Canada to vow to implement that tax. That would have hurt our tech companies here in the United States. The President made his position quite clear to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister called the President last night to let the President know that he would be dropping that tax, which is a big victory for our tech companies and our American workers here at home.
So let's talk about Mark Carney for a minute. The guy who promised to, quote, put Trump in his place. Turns out, the only thing getting put in its place was Canada's digital services tax. This was a Trudeau-era idea. Slap a 3% tax on big American tech companies, even if they don't physically operate in Canada. It was always a cash grab, plain and simple. And who would have ended up paying for it? That's right, us. The companies were just going to pass the cost on to Canadians. Your Disney Plus for the kids? All going up. But guess who stepped in and said no? Donald J. Trump. And Carney, the man who was supposedly going to stand up to Trump, folded faster than a cheap tent. He caved, got rid of the tax. So while Carney tries to act tough on the campaign trail, in real life, he just showed the world what we already knew. Canada needs the USA way more than America needs Canada. And in the end, it's Trump who saved Canadians from another liberal tax grab.
Last night I had a good conversation with President Trump, and we agreed to recommence our negotiations with a view to the 21st of July deadline that we had agreed in. Kananaskis, Minister Champagne and LeBlanc had conversations with their counterparts as well. We've restarted the discussions this morning. We have, to be clear, it's part of a bigger negotiation. It's something that we expected in the broader sense that would be part of a final deal. We're making progress towards a final deal. There's more to be done, to be clear. And as I just said, which answers the translation question, as I just said, is a question of timing in terms of the date for the final negotiations and when the tax was coming into effect. And, you know, it doesn't make sense to collect tax from people and then remit them back. So it provides some certainty. And as I just said, the negotiations have restarted. We're going to focus on getting the best deal for Canadians. We're making progress. There's more to do, and we'll keep you updated.
The White House says you cave. And cave he did. Now, at a recent press conference, Carney tried spinning this whole digital services tax reversal like it was all part of some grand negotiation strategy. Said it was always the plan. Sure, Mark. Just like it was always the plan to get rid of one of your biggest campaign promises, I guess. Let's not forget, during the election, he made it clear. The digital services tax and supply management protections were supposed to be off limits, not negotiable. But the moment Trump stepped in, boom, Carney backs off and the elbows go down. And the best part, Trump's done more to help regular Canadians than the Liberal government has. Whether it was border security or this tax nonsense, he pushes back, and magically, Ottawa has to listen. Now, if you've made it this far and you're enjoying the report, please do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it helps me continue bringing you these videos. If you've already subscribed, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now back to the video. At a recent debate about Alberta independence hosted by Rebel News, constitutional lawyer Keith Wilson explains why it's time for Alberta to separate from Canada and become an independent country. Let's watch.
Too many people in Canada, particularly Quebec and Ontario, do not see the world through the lens that David and I do. They don't recognize that greater prosperity, happiness, success, achievement results through governments that implement conservative policies. I remember over a year ago, people getting all excited on Twitter Spaces and things, pointing out that it looked like it was going to be a landslide for the federal Conservatives because they were at 47% in the polls. And then I would pop into the Twitter space and rain on the parade. And I would say, all right, but the Liberals are at 32 and the NDP's at 23, so that's 55. In other words, there's more people in Canada that share that view of the world, the view that I should not have to do things and take risks.
Okay, let's pull back the curtain a little bit. From its founding, Canada was designed to serve one purpose: keep Ontario and Quebec fat and happy while draining the West. Alberta and Saskatchewan? Just resource colonies. The money flows east, the power stays east, and anytime the West asks for a fair shake, they're told to sit down and behave. For decades, Albertans tried to fix Canada from the inside. Patriotic folks who believed in the country, who thought fairness was still possible. But it turns out, trying to get Ontario and Quebec to give up power is like trying to convince a raccoon to share a garbage can. It's not going to happen. So where does that leave Alberta? Stuck in a country that doesn't listen, doesn't care, and only shows up when it's time to take more. At this point, the writing's on the wall. If Alberta wants a future where its voice matters and its prosperity isn't siphoned off by a broken system, then independence isn't just an option, it's the only way forward.
The structure is just against us. And the structure is that we all know the elections are decided in Quebec and Ontario. They drive the agenda. It doesn't matter what we think. And the only way to change that structure would be to convince the people in Quebec and Ontario to change the Constitution, to give us more power. But they don't like us and they don't agree with us, so they're never going to agree with that. So I'm kind of feel like we're in a bad marriage and we can go to counseling all we want. We're not going to reconcile. And so I think we should put our energies into becoming a free and independent country and not in trying to convince Ottawa and Ontario and Quebec that there's a way forward with us together with them, because I don't think there is.
Ottawa? They don't listen. Never have.
$600 in carbon taxes just to run my tractor this week. That's not sustainable.
We're the only place in the world with this much wealth that needs permission to use it.
We drill the ground, they drain our pockets. Not anymore.
They talk reconciliation, then block Indigenous resource projects. That's not justice. That's control.
Time to lead.
Alberta first. I support Alberta independence.
I support Alberta independence.
I support Alberta independence.
All right, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Special thanks to those of you who have donated to this project. It is much appreciated, and it helps me continue making videos. See you on the next one. Peace.